guys, another one of these short videos, which is just like a walkthrough, and this time it's going to be about inequalities, okay? Let's look at this first problem. So we're given an inequality, and whenever we read inequality, guys, it's really important that you always read using the variable first. You never ever say 4 is less than or equal to y. You always start with the y. So you say y is greater than or equal to 4, okay? So for example, if I said, yo, how would you read this inequality? You're supposed to say y is more than 3. Never say 3 is less than y. So that's going to cause some confusion, okay? So always read their inequalities from the letter side first, okay? So let's read this inequality out loud. So y is greater or equal to 4. It's equal to, because there's a little thing over here. So y is greater than or equal to 4, and y is less than 8, and y is an integer. Write down all the possible values of y. So first things first, guys, whenever I have to do these kind of questions, I always translate this inequality and I just write it as a sentence, okay? So let's just write down what I just said earlier. So y is greater than or equal to 4. Y is greater than or equal to 4, and y is less than 8, sorry. Cool. And y is an integer. An integer is a whole number, okay? So write down all the possible values for y. Well, y is a number. It's greater than or equal to 4, but it is less than 8. So what can y be? Well, y can be 4, and it's anything greater than 4. So 5, 6, 7, but it has to be less than 8. So that's it. It can't be 8, so it's just going to be 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's look at this one over here. N is an integer such that n is greater than or equal to -2, but less than 3. Okay? Write down all the possible values for n. So let's just translate the inequality into a sentence. N is greater or equal to, my minus sign doesn't work, so -2, and less than 3. And n's a whole number. So we know n is greater or equal to -2. So n can be -2, and it has to be greater. So it can be equal to -2, and it has to be greater than -2. So -1, 0, 1, 2. It has to be less than 3. Okay, so that's our answer. Over here. Let's go to the next section. On a number line, show the inequality x is greater than -3. Okay, step 1, same as before, you want to translate your inequality into a sentence. Okay, so x is greater than minus, I'll just write it out, x is greater than -3. So what you do is you draw a little number line. In the middle, always label 0. Sometimes the number line is drawn for you, okay, but sometimes it's not, so you have to draw it yourself. And we know x is greater than -3. So what you're going to do is you're just going to label this number, okay? Just -3, not -2, not -4, just -3. Just label it. It's over here. And we're going to draw a circle, okay? Now, first things first, you can figure out if the circle is going to be hollow or it's going to be filled in. Here's how we tell. If there's ever a equal sign, then we have to fill it in, okay? But since there's no equal sign, it's just going to be hollow. And we know x is more than -3, so it's going to be this way, all right? Because after -3 is like -2, -1, 1, 2, 3, and we want the values which are more than -3, okay? So yeah, that's how we do it. Let's look at this one over here. On a number line, show the inequality x is greater than -2, but less than 4. So let's write that as a sentence. X is greater than, I'll type that in a sec. It's greater than -2, but less than 4. So we're going to draw our number line. We're going to label our two numbers, so -2 and 4, and then we'll draw circles for both of them. Now, since there's no equals to sign, under either of the inequalities, we're just going to leave it as hollow circles. And we know x is greater than -2. So -2 or more, but then it has to stop at 4 because x must be less than 4. So this is how we draw our inequality. We draw these two circles and a line between these two values. All right? And you can try the next two by yourself, okay? Next section is, solving inequalities, okay? Solving inequalities is just the same as solving equations, okay? All you're going to do is get x by itself, okay? So what you're going to do is find x, or just isolate x. Let's have a look at this one first. 4t plus 7 is less than or equal to 19. Guys, don't get confused with this inequality sign. Just pretend it's an equal sign, okay? So, and our goal is to solve. Solve just means to get t all by itself. So t is being multiplied by 4, then added by 7. So how do you get rid of that? Should we get rid of the 4 or the 7 first? Well, we always work backwards. T is multiplied by 4, and then it's added by 7. So we're going to get rid of the 7 first. To get rid of sign, we do the opposites. What's the opposite of plus 7? We minus 7. You have to balance it. So you minus 7 here, you get a minus 7 on the other side. Plus 7 and minus 7 cancel out. So we're left with just 4t is equal to, or just the inequality sign, 19 minus 7 is 12. Then t is multiplied by 4. How do you get rid of multiply by 4? Well, you divide by 4. So you have to balance it. You divide by 4. It's just like solving a regular equation. That cancels out. T is less than or equal to 12 divided by 4 is 3. And that's it. We have solved it. Now in some questions, like the question below, it says we have to show our answer on a number line, okay? So now, once we've solved it, we can just show it on a number line. So we have 0, 3, and t is less than or equal to 3. So we draw a circle on 3. Since there's an equals to sign, we have to fill it in. And t is less than 3, so it has to be this way, all right? And that's it. Let's look at this one over here. Solve 4x plus 6 is less than or equal to x plus 21. So solve. Let's get x by itself. So it's just going to be solving like a regular equation. So first things first, if you ever have x's on both sides, we don't like that. We have to get rid of one of them. Which one should we get rid of? We get rid of the smaller one. So 4x and 1x. 1x is smaller, so we're going to get rid of it. How do you get rid of x? We're just going to minus x. What you do to one side, you have to balance it on the other side. So minus x here. So 4x minus x is 3x. Plus 6 is less than or equal to, this cancels out, 21. Now, we have to solve it. We have to get x by itself. Well, x is being multiplied by 3 and then added by 6. So we have to work backwards. We're going to get rid of the 6 first. So plus 6, to get rid of it, we're going to minus 6. Balance it, minus 6. That cancels out. So 3x, boom. 21 minus 6 is 15. Let's write it out over here. Now x is being multiplied by 3. How do you get rid of multiplying by 3? Well, you divide by 3. So divide 3 here. You have to balance it, so you divide 3 here. The times 3 and divide 3 cancel out. So you're left with x is less than or equal to 5. All right? And that's your answer. And if they ask you to draw on a number line, you can do it pretty easily. 0, label 5, draw a circle. Since there's an equals to sign, you can fill it in. And x is less than or equal to 5, so it has to be this way. And that's how you do these questions, all right? And that was the first few basics. We're going to get a little bit harder now, okay? Now we have to write down the inequality shown on the number line. So what you want to do is, before you start writing down inequalities, is you want to write the inequality as a sentence, okay? So we know x starts at 2, basically, and it goes below 2, right? It's going to the left, so it's going below 2. So we can say x is less than 2. That's it. X is less than 2. So now, once we write it in a sentence, we can make it pretty easy into an inequality. X is less than 2. And since it's not shaded in, we can't do the equal sign. So that's it. X is less than 2. Let's have a look at this one over here, b. So let's have a look. Well, it starts here at 2 and it goes to -3. So we can say x is, or in this case y is, well, it's less than 2, but it's more than 3. So let's write it out. y is less than 2, but more than -3. But have a look, before we continue, the 2 is shaded in, so it can also be equal to 2. So we can say y is less than 2, y is less than or equal to 2, but more than 3. So now we can write in a sentence, in an inequality. So y is less than or equal to 2, but it is more than, -3. And that is our answer, okay? Next page. On a number line, show the inequality x plus 1 is less than or equal to 4. Okay guys, for these sorts of questions, before you can draw the number line, or like in this question, before you can write down the values for n, you have to solve the inequality first. You have to get x by itself or get n by itself before you're able to draw the number line or write down the values for n. So before you do anything, you have to, let's first solve the inequality. So x is being added by 1. To get rid of add by 1, you're going to have -1 and then -1 to balance it. That cancels out, so x is less than or equal to 4 minus 1 is 3. So now, x is less than or equal to 3. This is much easier to draw. So let's draw it 0 of 3. We're going to draw a circle. Since there's an equals to sign, we can fill it in. And it's x is less than or equal to 3, so going less than, away from below 3. So next one, n is an integer such that 2n is less than 6 but more than -3. Write down all the possible values for n. So before we can find the possible values for n, make sure you solve the inequality, okay? So we have to get n by itself. So n is being multiplied by 2, so we're going to divide 2 here. Now, do we divide 2 on the right-hand side or the left-hand side? The answer is you divide 2 on both sides. So divide 2 here and divide 2 here. So -3 divided by 2 is -1.5. The 2's cancel out, we're left with n, and that's 3. So now, let's write this in a sentence. So what are we going to say? n is more than -1.5. And n is less than 3. So, and we have to find out what n can be. So n is a number which is more than -1.5, but less than 3. And we know n is an integer. It has to be a whole number. So n has to be more than -1.5, so it can be -1, because that's more than -1.5, and it's a whole number. N can be 0, because it's more than -1.5. It can be 1 and 2, but it can't be 3, because n has to be less than 3. So these are the only values you can have, alright? So whenever you're solving, if there's things on either sides of n, if you divide 2 here, you gotta divide 2 on both sides, okay? Next page. So solve. So remember, we always read from the x-hand side. So 19 minus 3x is less than 4. So solve means get x by itself. So x is being multiplied by -3, then added by 19, because 19 is positive. So we're going to get rid of this 19 by minusing it on both sides. So minus 19 here and minus 19 here. 4 minus 19 is -15. Boom. That cancels out. -3x. Now x is being multiplied by -3. How do you get rid of multiplying by -3? You divide by -3. So we have to balance it by dividing by -3 here. Now, I'll move this down. -15 divided by -3 is 5. But actually, before we do that, here's the thing. Look at this little fact. If you ever divide or multiply by negative number, you must swap the inequality. Because we're dividing both sides by negative 3, we're going to swap the inequality, okay? So since it's facing this way now, it's going to face the other way. And we're just going to continue the same thing. So negative 15 divided by negative 3 is 5, and the negative 3's cancel out. So x is more than 5, okay? And then you can draw it on the number line if someone asks, okay? So you can try this question to practice. Guys, now we're going to get a little bit harder. We're going to start using inequalities on some graphs, okay? Let's have a read through the question. On the grid, label the region which satisfies these three inequalities. So we have x is less than 3, y is greater than minus 3, y is less than 2x, okay? In order to do these problems, guys, we're going to separate the problem. The first part of the problem is we're going to draw our lines, okay? The second part of the problem is where we start to shade things in, okay? Now, we can either draw two types of lines. We can draw solid lines, or we can draw dashed lines. And here's how we know when to draw which. We use solid lines when there's an equals to sign under the inequality. So x is less than or equal to 3, okay? Whenever there's an equals to sign, we're going to use a solid line. Equal sign. But if there isn't an equals to sign, like pretty much all three of these inequalities, there's no equal sign anywhere, we're going to use just a dashed line, so no equal sign. So first things first, we're going to determine which lines will be dashed and which lines will be solid. Well, since none of these lines have a equals to sign, this will be dashed, this will be dashed, and this will be dashed, okay? Now, how do we draw the lines? Let's say we want to draw x is less than 3. The first things first, guys, is ignore the inequality. It's going to confuse us, okay? Just replace it with an equal sign. So x is equal to 3. And all you're going to do is just draw this line, which will be a dashed line, okay? So where's x equals 3? Well, x equals 3 is a line that crosses the x-axis at 3. Therefore, it's this line over here. Because it cuts the x-axis at 3. Okay, so now that we've drawn the line, now we're going to worry about the shading, okay? So we know x is less than 3. So we want all the x values, or x coordinates. Whenever we think of x, just think x coordinates. So the x coordinates less than 3. So therefore, we want this side here. Because this is 3, and we want things which are... This is 3, and we want things which are less than 3. So we want this side here. So what we do is usually I like to shade in the unwanted side, okay? So since we want this side here, the side to the left of the line, we're going to shade in this area here. All right? And that's the first one all done. That's finished. Now, let's look at the next one. Y is more than negative 3. We're going to draw the line, so we're going to replace the inequality sign with an equal sign. Y equals minus 3. And we're going to draw that. Where's that? So it's a line which will cross the y-axis at negative 3. So it's going to be here. So it crosses the y-axis at negative 3. Now, we have to determine where to shade. So y is more than negative 3. So we want the y coordinates, just shade the coordinates. We want the y coordinates, which are more than minus 3. So this is minus 3 here. We want more than minus 3, okay? So we want this side, the section above the line. So we're going to shade in the section that we don't want, which is the section below the line. So we don't want this, okay? Easy as that. Next one. We're going to draw this line, y is less than 2x. Now, we're going to write y is equal to 2x. Now, how do we draw this line? There's a bunch of ways to do this. What I like to do is, I just like to draw a simple table. I like to keep it simple. Let's draw a table, and let's interpret this very literally. Everyone overcomplicates this. It's not necessary. The y coordinate is equal to 2 times the x coordinate. So what we have to do, guys, is just choose any value for x. Let's say x is 0. So all we're going to do is we've said x is 0, we're going to replace this x with 0. So 2x means 2 times x, we're going to do 2 times 0. 2 times 0 is 0, so y is 0. So that's our first coordinate, 0, 0. Now remember, guys, to draw a line, you have to have at least 2 coordinates. That's just 1 coordinate. So I'm going to choose another value for x. Let's say x is 2, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace x with 2. Simple as that. X is 2, so just replace x with 2 here. So 2x means 2 times x, so we're going to do 2 times 2, which will give us our y value. So 2 times 2 is 4, so y equals 4. And this is our second coordinate, 2, 4. Where is that? 2, 4. Boom. And then we can just draw a line, which is going to be, so we have some other points, so I'm just going to label it, boom, 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 and that's our line. It's going to be dashed as well. Another way you could have drawn this line is that you could realize that the number in front of the x value is always the gradient. So the gradient is 2. And usually all lines have something at the end like plus 5 or plus 6 or plus 7. This is called our y-intercept, okay? Since there's no number at the end, the y-intercept is 0. So it crosses the y-axis at 0, and it's got a gradient of 2. So for every rise of 2, we run 1. Rise 2, run 1. So therefore, yeah, these coordinates are all correct. But I just like to stick to a table and keep it literal. Now, how do we know which side do we want? Do we want the section to the left of our line or the right? When it comes to diagonal lines, it's a bit trickier. But all you have to do, guys, is use something called the true or false test, okay? All you're going to do is write down your inequality. Y is less than minus 2, is less than 2x. And you're going to choose a point on either side of the dashed line. As long as it's not on the dashed line, it can be either side. Let's just choose something simple, like let's choose this coordinate here, okay? This coordinate is 2, 0. So I'm going to write that down. I'm not going to leave it in my head because I'm going to forget it, 2, 0. And all you're going to do is replace the y and the x with the y and the x here. So y is, well, remember, the second number is always the y coordinate. So y is 0 is less than 2 times x. X is 2. So 0 is less than 2 times 2 is 4. And then you're going to say, is this true or false? Is this a true fact or a false fact? Is 4 bigger than 0? Yeah, it's a true fact. Therefore, we want the side where this coordinate is on. So we want the right-hand side. So we don't want this left-hand side. So we're left with this. We're kind of left with this triangle here, right? So we can just put a little R. And we're all done for that question, right? So draw the lines and then do your shading. Let's do the next question, and you can do some on your own. So on the grid, clearly indicate the region that satisfies these inequalities. All right, let's look at the first one. Y is less than x. So to draw the line, just replace the inequality with an equal sign, okay? So y equals x. So the y coordinate, just say the word coordinate, it makes it much more clear. The y coordinate is equal to the x coordinate. So I draw a little table, x and y. If I say x is 3 and the y coordinate is equal to the x coordinate, y also has to be 3 because y is equal to x. So that's our first coordinate, 3, 3. Here we go. And then our second coordinate, let's say x is, remember we need 2 coordinates, let's say x is 0. And if the y coordinate is equal to x coordinate, y also has to be 0. So that's our next coordinate, 0, 0. Now, I better check, should our line be dashed or should it be solid? Well, it should be dashed because there's no equals to sign, okay? So we're going to do a dashed line from here to here. Like that, all right? Next, we're going to do, then we're going to figure out now which side do we want. Do we want the section above it or the section below it? Do we want this side here or this side here. Since it's at the diagonal line, we have to do our true-false test. So what we're going to do, same as before, choose a coordinate on either side of the line. Let's keep it simple. Let's just do 2, 6. So write it down, 2, 6. And what was our inequality? This. So all you're going to do is you're going to replace the y with the y coordinate and the x with the x coordinate. Simple as that. So what's y? Y is 6. 6, boom, boom. And x is 2. Then you're going to check, is this a true fact or false fact? Is 6 less than 2? No, 6 is more than 2, so this is a false fact. Therefore, since this coordinate was false, we do not want this side. So we're going to shade this side out. And we're left with this section here. Next, let's do this. Y is less than or more than or equal to 1. So first step, draw the line, so y equals 1. So it's going to be a straight line which crosses the y-axis at 1. So it's going to be and is it going to be solid? Is it going to be solid or dashed? Well, it's going to be solid because there's a little equals to sign below. So y equals 1, where is that? Well, it's a line that's going to cross the y-axis at 1, so it's like this. Okay? Now, since it's a horizontal line, it's pretty easy to do. So let's write down our inequality again. Y is more than or equal to 1. So the y coordinate, remember y just means the y coordinate, is more than or equal to 1. So we want all the y coordinates more than 1. So we want the section above the line. So we're going to shade out the section below the line because we don't want it. All right, and then the last one, x plus y is less than or equal to 4. All right, so to draw it, we're going to write x plus y equals 4. Let's just solve it literally. Let's keep it simple, guys. The x coordinate plus the y coordinate equals 4. So let's draw our little table. And let's just choose a number for x. X is 1. So if x is 1, 1 plus y equals 4. Well, y has to be 3. 1 plus 3 equals 4. So y has to be 3. And that's our first coordinate. 1, 3. 1, 3 is here. Oh, let's change color. And then we need a second coordinate. Let's say x is 2. So if x is 2, y must be 2 as well, because 2 plus 2 equals 4. So 2, 2. Where's that? 2, 2's here. Now, our line is going to be solid because there's an equals to sign, okay? So, since we have 2 coordinates, we can just connect the coordinates. So boom, something like that. Now, we have to figure out which region. Do we want the section below? Oh, do we want the section below the line or above the line? What do we want? Well, since it's a diagonal line, we're going to use our true and false test. So our inequality is x plus y is less than or equal to 4. We're going to choose a coordinate on either side of the line. Let's just choose this coordinate here, which is 4, 2. So we're going to replace x with 4, because 4 is our x coordinate, plus y. Y is 2, less than 4. 4 plus 2 is 6, less than 4. Is this true or false? Is 6 less than or equal to 4? No, 6 is more than 4. This is false. Therefore, this point is false. We do not want this point. So therefore, we don't want any points on that side. So we do not want this point. So we're going to shade everything above this red line. And we're left with this tiny region over here. And that's our answer, okay? So on the next page, you can practice this one. You can give it a pause and give it a try, right? And now we're going to do the opposite. Now they've given us our region, and we have to find the 3 inequalities. Let's have a read through the question. The region labeled R satisfies 3 inequalities. state the three inequalities. Basically, the inequalities, guys, are the three lines they've drawn, these three red lines, okay? What we're going to do first is, kind of like before, instead of thinking about the inequalities first, let's just think about finding the equation of each line, okay? So let's start with this line here. What's the equation of this line? Well, if this line continued, it would cross the x-axis at 6. So we can say this first line is x equals 6, okay? Now, if we look at this line over here, the region that we want is on the left-hand side of this line. So we want all the x-coordinates which are less than 6. So we can say x is less than 6. And since our line was also solid, there has to be an equals to sign. So x is less than or equal to 6. Now, that's all done. Let's look at this horizontal line. Well, we know if this line continued, it would cross the y-axis at 2. So we can say y equals 2. And then on this dotted line, our region is above this horizontal line. So we want this section up here. So basically all the y coordinates above 2. So we can say y is greater than 2. Because the y coordinates must be more than 2. And then, since it's a dashed line, we don't need one of these equals to signs. That's it. So this is our first answer. That's 1 mark. 2 marks. And then, let's look at the next one. This diagonal line. So let's find the equation of a diagonal line. Well, since it's a diagonal line, remember guys, all diagonal lines can be written in the format of y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. So first things first, the y-intercept is really easy. We're just going to look where this line hits the y-axis. Well, this line hits the y-axis at 0. It hits it right here. So we know the c value is just going to be plus 0, okay? All right, y equals mx plus 0 because the y-intercept is 0. Now, how do we find our gradient? Well, the gradient is just the rise over the run. So gradient is equal to rise over run. All you do is just choose any 2 points along this line. Let's choose this point here and this point here, and we're going to draw a little triangle. So the rise from here to here, so that's from 8 to 10 is 2. So the jump is 2. And the run is from here to here, from 8 to 10 as well, which is also 2. So it's the rise, which is 2, divided by the run, which is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So our m value is 1. So we can write y equals 1x plus 0. In algebra, remember, we never need to write 1x. We just write x, y equals x. And plus 0 is a bit redundant. It's not necessary. So basically our final equation is y equals x, okay? And here's another reason why it's y equals x. Remember guys, y means the y coordinate. The y coordinate is equal to the x coordinate. Let's just choose any points along this line. Let's say this point here. Oh look, it's 4, 4. Look, the y coordinate is equal to the x coordinate. Let's have a look over here. Let's try another coordinate. Let's choose here. Oh, it's 8, 8. Look, the y coordinate is equal to the x coordinate, okay? So that's another reason why the line is y equals x. Now, for this one, it's a little bit harder to figure out which way we should put our inequality sign. So what we do, guys, is this is our line we're discussing right now. And we know we want this side of the line because the region's there. So what you do is you choose a coordinate where on the side of the line where your region is. So we have to choose a coordinate somewhere on the right-hand side, okay? Because our region's on the right-hand side. I'm going to choose this point here, 8, 4. So write it down, 8, 4. And you're going to plug it into here, okay? So what's our y coordinate? Well, our y coordinate is 4. And our x coordinate is 8. Ooh! And now we can put our inequality sign. What's bigger, 8 or 4? Well, it's 8. So we just leave it like that. So therefore, we're going to write down x and y. And it's like this. And since the line is a solid line, is going to be an equals to sign. So y is less than or equal to x, okay? And those are your 3 answers. So whenever there's a diagonal line, you have to do your that little test again, okay? So find the equation, choose a coordinate on the side where your region is. So we chose 8, 4, but you can do any coordinate on the right-hand side of the line. Then you plug it into your equation. So y is 4, x is 8, and look, 8 is bigger than 4, so x is bigger than y. And then you're done. These are your 3 answers. 1 mark here, 1 mark here, and 1 mark here. Let's do a question on the next page. So the region labeled R satisfies 3 inequalities. State the 3 inequalities. So let's start with the horizontal lines. It's easy. So our horizontal line, look, it crosses the y-axis at -4. So we can say y equals -4. Now, our region is above the line. So we want all the y coordinates above -4. So y is greater than -4. And since the line is solid, we're going to put an equals to sign. So that's 1 mark right there. Y is greater than or equal to -4. Now let's do this line over here. Okay, so first let's find the equation of the line. So since it's diagonal, it has to be a y equals mx plus c. C is the y-intercept. So this is pretty easy. Where does this line cross the y-axis? Well, it crosses the y-axis at 4. So we know c is +4. Now we have to find the gradient. So to find the gradient, m means the gradient, and to find the gradient, it's rise over run. So we just choose 2 points. Let's choose this point here, and I don't know, this point here. Draw a little triangle. The rise is from 2 to 4 is 2, and the run is from here to here, which is 1. So the rise is 2 over the run, which is 1. And 2 divided by 1 is 2. So our gradient is 2. Y is equal to, and now, since the line is sloping downhill, it's got a negative gradient, okay? So it's actually -2. So y is equal to, not 2, but -2x plus 4. And that's our equation for this line over here. So this line here has an equation of y equals -2x plus 4. Now, we have to figure out where our inequality sign goes by doing our little test. Since our region is on this side of the line, we're going to choose any coordinate on this side. So I'm going to choose this coordinate here, 0, 0. Okay, 0, 0. So all you're going to do is replace y with the y coordinate and x with the x coordinate. So what's the y coordinate? Well, it's 0. So 0 equals -2 times, well, our x coordinate is also 0. Plus 4, simplify it, 0 equals -2 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. Which number is bigger? 4 is bigger, so 4 is bigger than 0. And since our line is a solid line, you can see underneath the green, it's a solid line, there has to be an equals to sign. So therefore, we're just going to copy this out again, y and -2x plus 4, and it's going to be facing this side over here. And this is our second answer, okay? Then, to do the last one, we have to do this line here. So let's find the equation. Well, it's a diagonal line. So it's going to be y equals mx plus c. So c is the y-intercept. Well, this line crosses the y-axis at -2. So c is -2. So y equals mx minus 2. Now we have to find our gradient, which is the rise over, m is the gradient, which is rise over run. So choose 2 points. Let's choose this point here and this point here. Make a little triangle. The rise from here to here is 2, and the run is 2. So rise overrun equals 2 over 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so the gradient is 1. So y is equal to m is 1. X minus 2. We don't really need the 1x, it's a bit redundant, so we're just going to write y equals x minus 2. Okay? And it's positive x because it's going uphill. Now we have to decide which way our inequality sign is going to go. So what we do, we're going to choose a coordinate on the side we want. So since we're looking at this line here, and our region is over here, we're going to choose any coordinate in this section here on the side of our region. So let's choose, I don't know, 6, negative 6. Okay, so let's write it down. 6, negative 6. And then I'm going to plug it into our equation. So our y coordinate is negative 6. So remember, y means just a y coordinate equals x coordinate, where our x coordinate is 6 minus 2. Negative 6 equals 6 minus 2 is 4. Oh, 4 is bigger than negative 6. So we're going to write 4 is bigger than negative 6. So we're going to write our equation out again. So y x minus 2. And it's going to face towards x minus 2. And since our line is, it's a solid line, isn't it? So it has to be an equals to sign. And that is our first answer. So there's 1, 2, 3. Just a bit of quick maths on this topic.